invented baseball in Cooperstown, New York in 1839. That is not right. And the major reason for the debunking of said myth is that Abner Doubleday was not in Cooperstown in 1839. He was at West Point. So if he had been present in Cooperstown in 1839, he would have been AWOL and thrown out of West Point.
Well, that's a good way to start the show. Hi, welcome here on E2G. Robert Marcello here with Parker. Parker, how is your Saturday afternoon going?
Well, depends on how the Cardinals do.
Fair enough.
Well, they just got started, so hopefully it will be a happy. Hopefully, we'll have a happy ending to the Cardinals game, like we didn't have last night. A great effort by Adam Wainwright went basically to waste. I don't know how did the Red Sox do against the Yankees last night?
Not so good. Not so good. We've had the rough past couple of nights. I kind of wanted to get into that today. Of course, talk about the Cardinals. Obviously, talk about our two favorite teams.
Right.
I find that story very interesting that you opened up with, Parker.
The Doubleday story?
Yes, very. It's a big myth, and I'm glad that someone as yourself, would point that out and talk about it with the listeners, because I don't want this show, and I don't think our listeners just want it to be about like every other show where they sit down and they talk about every single little thing in baseball. We kind of want to go a little bit deeper into a specific topic and then kind of branch out into some other ones. And that's why I kind of like talking with you on Saturdays.
I mean, the Doubleday myth it made for a good story at the time, because there were claims coming in. There were claims coming from England, and even Russia claimed to have invented an early game of baseball. But the Doubleday myth made for a good story because it was American. Because, Abner Doubleday graduated from West Point. He fired the first Union response to the Confederate artillery barrage at Fort Sumter. And he was also a hero at the Battle of Gettysburg.
Mm-hmm.
So having baseball being invented by a real American hero makes for a great story.
Great story.
But I think the truer beginnings of what we know today as baseball could be found in Hoboken, New Jersey in 1846, where a lot of the modern rules that we know today were codified by Alexander Joy Cartwright.
Okay.
One of the most important rules being that when the batter swings at strike 3 and the catcher muffs it, that batter is bound to run. Yeah, that rule was actually first codified in the 1840s, and it was made famous by, of course, Mickey Owen in the 1941 World Series, when Tommy Henrich of the Yankees swung at what was strike 3, and Owen let it get away, and Henrich ran, reached first base safely, and kept the inning alive. And if Owen hadn't muffed that ball, then the 1941 series would have been tied at 2 games apiece. Instead, the Yankees won. That was game 4, by the way. The Yankees won game 4 and then went up 3-1 and went on to win the series the next day.
Was that best of 7 then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the first World Series that you guys were in, 1903, which was actually the first modern World Series, I'll get into that later, was 1903, and you guys won 5-3.
Okay.
And you remember Tessie, right, from Fever Pitch?
Oh, yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, Tessie was a song that was popular in 1903.
Wow.
And the Sox fans changed the lyrics to something, Tessie, why do you make me feel so madly? They were lampooning Hannes Wagner of the Pirates, and they said, well, Hannes, why do you hit so badly?
Okay.
Now, do you know the Do you know the early history of your team?
Somewhat to a point, but of course you know a lot more than obviously I do. So
Okay. Well,
a little bit of explanation on that. That's fine.
I mean, I'm sure you know Red Sox Nation being one of the most famous baseball fan clubs in
Yes.
the world. Well, that's the same with us, Cardinal Nation. But you guys had a fan club in the turn of the 20th century that predated Red Sox Nation by a lot. It's called the Royal Rooters. And one of the founding members of the Royal Rooters was the then mayor of Boston and also a congressman, John Fitzgerald.
I've heard that name.
Yeah, he was nicknamed Honey Fitz, and he was the grandfather of JFK.
Wow, it's a good story.
But anyway, I was gonna say I want to get into a little bit of the 19th century game. In 1858, one of the games from which baseball was derived was a game called town ball. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but when Abraham Lincoln ran for the presidency in 1860, there was a campaign poster of him playing town ball.
Now, what is town ball?
I don't know exactly what it is, but in baseball, runners are thrown out. They're not thrown at. One of the rules of town ball was that you could, what they called, soak a runner. You could throw at him and he would be out. Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
No.
But that was just, town ball was just an early variation of baseball. I mean, you had a British game called Rounders, which when you talk to a Brit, they love to say that Rounders was a kiddie game, a child's game. But so that's why they make fun of baseball so much, because they think baseball was based on a kid's game. But I think in 1791, the town of Pittsfield, I'm sure you know where that is.
Yes, of course. Yeah, Western Mass. Yes.
Yeah, they passed an ordinance restricting the play of baseball, 2 words, and because of too many broken windows.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This was in 1791. There are also records of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson playing bat and ball games, though it's not said specifically what those games were.
Okay.
They didn't give them a name. They just said that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson played bat and ball games. There's also an entry in the journals of Lewis and Clark. I think they were on their way back from their expedition. They had reached the Pacific already. They were coming back. They were in the Bitterroot Mountains, and there were records of them playing base against the Nez Perce Indians. Or, sorry, Native Americans, excuse me. I know we can't call them Indians anymore. But anyway, but there are records in the journals of Lewis and Clark. So, and I think Walt Whitman once wrote in the Brooklyn Eagle that he happened upon a bunch of children playing base, a certain type of ball. And he said it was good for them. They were able to get good, clean air in their lungs. They were able to get exercise. So the origins of baseball, I think, were very complicated. Then we still don't know the true. There's not one point we can point to as the exact date of the founding of baseball. I mean, the origins of the game are less complicated than the origins of our country. But anyway, 1858, the National Association of Baseball, 2 words, players, was formed, and there were hundreds of amateur clubs throughout the Northeast and the Middle Atlantic states. And in 1861, there was one club that was getting ready to form in Richmond, Virginia, but this little thing called the Civil War got in the way. And there was another club called the Brooklyn Excelsiors or Atlantics. I don't know exactly what they were called, but they had a first baseman named Alec Pearsall. And he went to serve he served in the Civil War. But then he found out
Pearsall at all?
Pearsall.
Is he related to Jimmy Pearsall?
I don't know. But anyway, he served in the Civil War. And then he found out that he had been expelled by the Brooklyn Club in the National Association of Baseball Players. He was expelled because he served as a doctor in the Confederate Army. But anyway, so the war ended, and I don't know if Lincoln ever actually saw a game, but I think Robert E. Lee mentions it in some of his writings. And I think there are records of Andrew Johnson, the man who succeeded Lincoln in the presidency, having seen a game. But I believe the first president to actually sit and watch a professional baseball game in person was Benjamin Harrison.
What year was that? What
18,
year would that have been?
I think 1889, 1890, something like that. Yeah, he only served the one term between two non-consecutive terms by Cleveland.
Okay.
Now, all right, one date that is very pivotal in the history of baseball, 1869. That was the year that George and Harry Wright formed the first ever all-professional team, the Cincinnati Red Stockings, which is kind of ironic because only one player was actually from Cincinnati. The rest were all from New York or Boston. But they were basically a touring club. And they were the first and only team to go through a season unbeaten. And then that first year, they made a profit of $1.39. I mean, after they paid all the players and accounted for the concessions and whatever for ticket sales, that was their profit. That was all they had to show, $1.39. But anyway, they went through 1869 and most of 1870 unbeaten. They faced the Brooklyn Club. I don't know what they were called at the time, but it was in Brooklyn. They were tied after 9 innings, 7-7. And they decided they could have settled for the tie as per the rules of the time, but they chose not to. They decided to try something new. Extra innings.
Okay.
And the Cincinnati Club ended up losing 8-7.
Question for you.
Please.
Now in 2022, I don't believe this to be the case, but as a baseball historian, do you think we're ever going to see a point where baseball drops after 12 innings as a tie?
No.
I don't think it will either.
No, I don't think it should. I mean, you go to a game, and you play till you're done, until the winning run crosses the plate. That's when the game needs to end. I mean, I know in Japan they do it, and I've known guys that served in Japan, and they've gone to games. They don't like that.
Yeah, the game just ends. Yeah,
it just ends. It could be 4-4. I mean, it could be 20-20. It just ends.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll see that. I don't think American fans would rather see the game to a foregone conclusion.
Fair enough.
But anyway, so yeah, the Reds, after that loss to Brooklyn, the Cincinnati Red Stockings just folded. And a lot of people think that Cincinnati club was a direct ancestor of the Cincinnati Reds of today. That's not true either. because they suspended operations. They ceased, that 1869 and 1869 club ceased to exist. But anyway, 1871, the National Association of Professional Baseball, again, 2 words. In the 19th century, it was called baseball, not baseball like we call it today. It was baseball, 2 words. Anyway, the National Association of Professional Baseball Players was formed. And believe it or not, 2 of the clubs still operate. And George and Harry Wright decided to reform the Red Stockings Club, and this time it was based in Boston. No, it's not an ancestor of your Red Sox.
No, they are not. No.
They do still operate, though. Anyway, another club that was formed right along with them was the Chicago White Stockings. Not to be confused with today's White Sox. The White Stockings started play in 1871, and then this little thing called the Chicago Fire got in the way. Mm-hmm. And 1872, they didn't play. They resumed operations in 1873, and they continue to operate to this day as the Chicago Cubs.
Why did they change their name?
They changed their name. From the White Stockings to the Colts to the Orphans. And I remember reading exactly why they changed their names to the Cubs. That I don't remember what it was, but they did.
Having any translation with like the Chicago Bears?
No, because they were formed way before the Chicago Bears ever existed. And the Chicago Bears
1920 something.
They were 1900 they became the Cubs. Okay. The Chicago Bears didn't start life as the Chicago Bears. They were the Decatur Staleys. After the guy that made maple syrup. Yeah, George Halas didn't come into the picture until 1920.
Okay.
And George Halas, believe it or not, had been a right fielder with the New York Yankees.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't hit worth a crap, but he was a good fielder. There's a legend that says that Babe Ruth was the one that replaced him. That's not true either. I think Halas had stopped playing baseball the year before Ruth came to New York. Anyway,
he came to New York in like 19.
He came to New York.
1919.
Well, the deal the negotiations started in 1919, and were not concluded until January of 1920. Okay. And then he started playing in New York in 1920.
I did want to ask you, because since we're talking about 19th century baseball, the first class of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. You see the list, you think of all the names. What are some of the guys on that list that stand out, or are they all?
Ty Cobb.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth, obviously. Mm-hmm. Grover Cleveland Alexander, Christy Mathewson, they all stand out.
Would you say that how many guys were elected in that class?
I think 12.
Are they all considered top?
Oh, yeah.
100 players of all time?
Yeah. I mean, Walter Johnson.
Yeah.
Cy Young, Christy Mathewson, Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Honus Wagner. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of time has passed in the game.
I think a few of them were elected before the dedication of the actual Baseball Hall of Fame building in 1939, but I think all 12 of them were inducted at the same time.
Okay.
Anyway, the National Association of Professional Baseball Players, shortened to the National Association. But believe it or not, that league was not considered for historical purposes to be a major league. Then the first major league that we know today was formed, of course, in 1876. The original formation of this league, of said league, was in Louisville, Kentucky in January of 1876. It was formed at the Galt House Hotel, which incidentally still stands today. You can see it as you drive into Louisville on I-64. It sits right there along the banks of the Ohio. The league was called the Western League, and the Chicago Cubs were among its members. And another club that was among its members was the St. Louis Brown Stockings. And no, this club is not a direct ancestor of today's Cardinals. It is an indirect ancestor. And I'll explain why later. All right. Anyway, like I said, the league was called the Western League, but William A. Hulbert, the owner of the Chicago franchise, just thought for the league to be more marketable, some Eastern teams would have to be included. And among those teams were the Philadelphia Athletics, not to be confused with the Oakland Athletics of today, or the Philadelphia Athletics that would become the Oakland Athletics of today, the New York Mutuals, and of course the Boston Red Stockings of George and Harry Wright.
Now, I did have a question for you because you know a lot about this era. Scheduling wise, back then in the late 1800s, early 1900s, how many games would they play? Would they have time in between series to be able to get from city to city? Because back then it was just trains.
Yeah, I don't. They played only like 60 some odd games a year to start off with. They didn't, once trains became faster, they had a little less time to get from city to city. But yeah, the games it was 60 games, and I think it was stretched out like from April to October, like it is today. But
okay,
yeah, the games were played a lot less often than they are today. You couldn't get from one coast to the other in 5 hours like you can today. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have California teams until 1958. No. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to explain a little bit about the St. Louis team. And I think I've said this in another broadcast. The St. Louis, Missouri on July 15th, 1876 was the site of the first ever Major League Baseball no-hitter. And it was thrown by George Washington Bradley, and his nickname, because he was always happy, he always had a sunny disposition, his nickname was Grin. And he threw the first ever no-hitter against the Hartford Dark Blues. Yes, Hartford, Connecticut even had a team. Matter of fact, they were one of the charter franchises of the new National League of Professional Baseball Clubs. That is the organization that was formed when William A. Hulbert decided it would be a good idea to include teams from the East. But anyway, it was against the Hartford Dark Blues and their ace pitcher named Tommy Bond. And the score was 2-0 St. Louis. But it still counted, even though it still counted as a no-hitter. Defensively, it was a very sloppy game there. I think the St. Louis team committed like 8 errors, and there were some bases on balls. It was still a no-hitter. Nobody got a hit on the Hartford side. And overlooked is the fact that Tommy Bond didn't pitch such a bad game himself. He only lost 2-0. But anyway, back then, pitchers, you didn't have pitch counts. You didn't have closers. You didn't have specialists. A lot of the time, you didn't even have a rotation. Bradley, that year, 1876, Bradley had a record of 45-19. And what do you think the Cardinals' the Brown Stockings record was that year?
49-19.
45-19, yeah. Pitchers pitched every game, pretty much. Game. Yeah. You pitched until your damn arm fell off. Now Providence once had a major league team.
I did know that. It's funny that anytime you think about a Connecticut professional sports team, they're not there anymore. And there was a lot.
They are. They're just not major league.
Yeah, and then you look at Rhode Island. They've obviously had a professional baseball team at one time. And
they have a professional hockey team.
They have a minor league hockey team. Yeah,
they are professional. They get paid.
They do get yes.
So technically, they are professional. They're just not.
Yes, yeah.
I know. I get that a lot. I hear people say, "Oh, minor league. That's not pro."
They do get paid. They
are professionals. They get paid to play.
Yes.
Anyway, Providence, 1884. Providence had a pitcher named Charles Radburn. His nickname was Haas. And nobody could figure out why. And it's also been said that you know what a Charlie horse is? When you get a Charlie horse in your leg?
Yes.
Yeah. It is said that the expression Charlie horse came from his name.
Okay.
Because he was, legend has it he was running from third to home and he developed a cramp. And one of his teammates, he was a catcher from, I think, Puerto Rico or somewhere down in that area, came up to him and said, "What's the matter, Charlie Haas?" So he called him Charlie Haas, but he asked him what the matter was, and then I think somewhere along the line the expression morphed into Charlie horse. But anyway, Haas Radburn in 1884 had quite probably what was one of the greatest seasons ever by a pitcher. His record was 60-12. He had 73 complete games, and he pitched 673 innings and had like 400 and some odd Ks. Yeah, I mean that's even today when you look at it, it's unbelievable. But
you now hear guys that don't even get to 200 strikeouts anymore.
Right. You hear people that you hear about people that don't even get to 200 innings.
Yeah.
But yeah, but apparently I read this book by a guy named Edward Acorn called 59 and 84. Well, some historians say he had 59 wins rather than 60. But anyway, he talks about the fact that Haas pitched so much that he could barely comb his hair. I mean, he's so much wear and tear on his arm back then. He could barely comb his hair. But he still managed to win 309 games and was eventually inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And he pitched for. And now this is Haas was, I don't remember which team he was with, but he was in New York playing against the Gothams, which eventually became the Giants. And his team was posing for a photograph, and he was seen doing this. So he was probably the first person ever to give a photographer the bird. I mean, it's a very widely circulated photograph.
Rebellious, huh? I guess.
He was. He was said to be rebellious. But anyway, when you see these records and statistics in the 19th century, you wonder, like, there was a guy in 1886, I believe. His name was Matt Kilroy, pitched for the Baltimore Orioles, not the other Baltimore Orioles, not the Baltimore Orioles we know today. He struck out 513 batters. And the next year he struck out almost 1,000 batters in 2 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, not so fast.
Okay.
All right. What is the standard? You know what the standard distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate is today, right?
90 feet.
No.
Or 65?
60 feet, 6 inches.
60 feet.
It wasn't always that way. It was.
I'm thinking between bases.
90 feet between bases. That's correct. But it was 60 feet 6 inches from the pitcher's mound to home. As a matter of fact, I think Tim McCarver and Steve Carlton once joked, when we die, we're going to be buried 60 feet 6 inches apart. But anyway, the distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate when the rules were first codified was 50 feet. It was increased to its standard distance of today in 1893. So yeah, a lot of the pitchers' records were kind of tainted because of the short distance.
Okay.
But the way I figure it, a pitch is a pitch, a win is a win, a season is a season. The guy did what he did. I've mentioned Tip O'Neill batting .492 in 1897 or 1887, excuse me, when walks counted as base hits. But that one I can understand. His average was adjusted to .435, but the others, I figure, a season's a season, a pitch is a pitch, a win is a win. It is what it is. But you had clubs. November 2nd, 1881, at the Hotel Gibson in Cincinnati, Ohio, the first direct on-field challenge to the National League was formed. As I've mentioned before, it was called the American Association, not the American League. I'll have more on that later. But the American Association was formed. There were teams in Cincinnati, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Brooklyn, Baltimore. There eventually was a team in Kansas City. They had teams everywhere. There was a team in, I think, Toledo. They had teams. They had teams in a lot of places that don't have Major League Baseball anymore.
Okay.
Toledo, Ohio, being one of them. Now I don't know if you know the story about Cap Anson bringing the Chicago White Stockings into Toledo.
I do not know that story. No.
Well, please excuse me, and please convey my apologies to the members of our live audience. I'm going to use this word, but I'm going to use it because it's a direct quote. Anyway, Cap Anson brings his team into Toledo. They're going to play an exhibition game against the Toledo Blue Stockings, or as they were sometimes called, the Toledo Mawmees, because the Toledo sits on the banks of the Maumee River. And he saw the Toledo team warming up, and there were two black players warming up with the Toledo team. One of them was Moses Fleetwood Walker, and the other one was his brother, Wellday Walker. Now, these guys were on the roster of the Toledo team, so they were major leaguers. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Cap Anson says to the opposing manager, "Get that N-word off the field."
Mm-hmm.
I was going to use the word, but I decided at the last minute not to.
Understandable.
I mean, I would have, if I were to use it, it would have been as a direct quote, but but still, people are going to see that and go, nah. But anyway, that's what he said. He said, "Get that N-word off the field." Mm-hmm. And the Toledo manager actually relented and benched the Walker brothers for the whole game. But I mean, there were actually black players on major league rosters, and this was 60 years before Jackie Robinson. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's that. And as I said before, the 1882 was the first incarnation of what was known as the World's Series, mm-hmm. as opposed to World Series like we know today. It was the champions of the NL and the champions of the AA. Mm-hmm. And as I said once before, the St. Louis Brown Stockings. Now, this incarnation of the St. Louis Brown Stockings is a direct ancestor of the St. Louis Cardinals that we know today.
That
And
we
they,
talked about a couple weeks ago. I remember we kind of went.
yeah, they
Yeah.
they went to 4 World's Series in a row and won 1 World's Championship. But anyway, what was I gonna say? The Brown Stockings, I told you, were founded by Chris von der Ey, who's a German immigrant. He proclaimed himself to be der Postpräsident. He had a very thick German accent. So he called himself der Postpräsident. And he was a precursor to George Steinbrenner and Charlie Finley. He was a showman. He was the first person to really think of new innovations to bring fans into his ballpark. He was as I said, he was sometimes credited with being the first person to sell hot dogs at the ballpark. But I don't know if that's true or not. The more widely accepted theory is that hot dogs were first sold at ballparks by Harry M. Stevens, whose concession company still exists to this day. I mean, if you go to Madison Square Garden in New York, if you go to racetracks, a lot of the concessions are run by Harry M. Stevens. And it's the same guy. But anyway, he had fairgrounds, he had beer gardens, all sorts of things. He even had horse racing as a means to bring fans into his ballpark. But
that was a big sport back then.
Yeah, but unfortunately, once St. Louis joined the National League, he ran afoul of the league owners because it was seen as gambling, and the National League owners frowned on gambling, and which is another thing I'm going to explain. That all right, the St. Louis, as I said before, there was a St. Louis Brown Stockings that were a member of the National League in 1876. They played 1876, 1877, and disbanded after 1878, or 1877 before 1878. Excuse me. A few of their there was a gambling scandal that plagued the National League then. Some of the players on the Louisville team, Louisville, Kentucky, even had a team back then. And a later version of the Louisville, Kentucky team eventually merged with the Pittsburgh club of the American Association and became the Pirates. Yes, the same Pirates that we know today.
Okay.
But anyway, some of their players and some of the Louisville players and some of the St. Louis players got caught up in a gambling scandal and were throwing games. So because of that, because of the bad publicity they were getting, the St. Louis Brown Stockings disbanded, and as did the Louisville club. So the St. Louis Brown Stockings actually operated for 4 years as a barnstorming team. I mean, they played ball. They just weren't members of the National League. They still played ball. They still operated as a semi-pro team. And then, Chris von der Ey made his money, of course, in beer. And he owned a saloon called the Golden Lion. And a lot of the St. Louis players were regulars in his bar. Anyway, one of his customers was an outfielder named Ned Cuthbert, and he is talking to Chris von der Ey about baseball. He says, "Chris, this is a great game. It's catching on. You really ought to get in on it." So he agrees. He says, it took a lot of convincing, but Eddie, Ned Cuthbert, that is, convinced me there was really something to league baseball, so I decided to get in on it. So in 1881, November of that year, the The American Association held its first meeting, as, like I said before, at the Hotel Gibson in Cincinnati, Ohio. And believe it or not, Chris von der Eye was elected chairman of that meeting. And a lot of the owners, a lot of the initial ownership groups in the American Association had ties to the brewing and distilling industries. And because of that, the American Association was informally known as the Beer and Whiskey League.
I remember you mentioning that 2 weeks ago. We went into this.
Yeah, there's another really good book that I think is a good read. It's by the same guy that wrote 59 and 84, and it's called the Beer and Whiskey League. And it's a history of the American Association. But all right. I said I said about your Boston Red Sox, more on that later. In 1894, a sports writer named Ban Johnson, who ended up becoming the first president of the American League, founded a minor league. And this minor league ended up being a financial success. It was called the Western League. And they had clubs in Sioux City, Grand Rapids, Cleveland, Kansas City, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I'm trying to think where else. Sioux City, Iowa, Rapid. I think they had one in Rapid City, South Dakota. It wasn't a major league, mind you, but it was apparently the brand of baseball was very competitive. And I'm trying to remember what year it was. There was I think it was the Minneapolis St. Paul club had an outfielder named Perry Worden. And 1 year for that club, he hit 45 home runs, or 44 home runs, excuse me. That was the record in organized baseball, period, until 1920, when Babe Ruth hit 54. Yeah, his name was Perry Worden. His nickname was Moose. And he hit 44 home runs. Dang. Sorry. Anyway, so this league was, Ban Johnson made this league a success. And Milwaukee was one of the clubs too, and they were managed for a couple of years by a gentleman named Cornelius Alexander McGillicuddy. I don't know if you know who that is.
The name sounds familiar, McGillicuddy.
But that's his real name. But
okay,
he was more well known by his quote unquote stage name, Connie Mack.
Okay. Well, Connie Mack is
that's
legend. Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
McGillicuddy sounds familiar.
Connie Mack has a couple of descendants that were very prominent Republican politicians.
Okay.
One was a U.S. senator from Florida named Cornelius Alexander McGillicuddy III, and another was a Florida congressman named Cornelius Alexander McGillicuddy IV. And Cornelius, believe it or not, Cornelius Alexander McGillicuddy IV was at one time married to Sonny Bono's widow. But yeah, Cornelius Alexander McGillicuddy remained his legal name for the rest of his life. But anyway, he managed the Milwaukee club. So anyway, the Western League existed from 1894 to 1899. And then they changed their name to the American League in 1900. They played the 1900 season as a minor league. And Ban Johnson decided that he was going to go major league with the American League. And he was going to do what Bill Hulbert did 25 years earlier and add Eastern teams. Among those Eastern teams were your guys, the Boston Red Sox. I think the Sioux City Canaries moved to Chicago and became today's White Sox. So a lot of the Cleveland team, I think, was called the Cleveland Lake Shores in the Western League. They eventually became I'm going to say it anyway, Indians.
The Indians, and now they're the Guardians.
Yeah.
That's okay to say. Baseball history. That's fine.
Okay. But anyway, and there was another team, the Kansas City Blues. They were owned by a gentleman named Jim Manning, and they moved to Washington and became the Senators.
Okay.
And they stayed there for 50. They were eventually purchased by Clark Griffith, and they stayed in Washington for 60 years. And
hence Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C.,
which is now the Howard University Medical Center.
Yes. No.
But they stayed in Washington for 60 years and became the Minnesota Twins. Why
do the Texas Rangers have affiliates?
Because in 1961 the American League expanded and a new Washington Senators were established, and that club became the Texas.
It's kind of like the Winnipeg Jets hockey, kind of.
Exactly like that.
Disbanded and then bang, right back. Okay.
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets became the Coyotes, and then the Atlanta Thrashers moved to Winnipeg and became the revamped Jets.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Winnipeg Jets that exist today are not the original Winnipeg Jets.
No.
But anyway, the Washington Senators, the original Washington Senators, a lot of their franchise records that are held by people like Walter Johnson, those records are considered part of the Twins' history rather than the Texas Rangers' history.
Now, those guys aren't then Twins Hall of Famers, are they?
I don't know. Harmon Killebrew actually started out as
Killebrew was a twin.
He moved with the team to Minnesota.
Yes.
Jim Cott. You remember Jim Cott?
Yes, Jim Cott. Yeah, he's a broadcaster as well. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. He also moved with the Washington Senators to Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah, so now Jim Cott also is the holder of a very interesting record.
Okay.
He holds the record for a career that spanned the most presidential administrations. Yeah, Jim Cott started out in, I think, 1958 when Eisenhower was president.
Parker, I did have a question for you.
Sure.
More on the lines of 1960 and after. I mean, you saw it, in the 50s and even in the 40s. I was just sitting, at the 4th of July cookout last weekend, and we were talking about baseball and home run records and average records and everything else. And Ichiro Suzuki owns a very, very important record.
Yeah.
And that's
he broke George Sisler's hits record.
Yes. Can you talk about how important the international game is now compared to 30 or 40 years ago, where there was barely any players internationally playing?
I think it's very important now because I mean, when they brought baseball back to the Olympics in 2021, it was supposed to be 2020, but they brought it back in 2021. The international teams, the teams from outside the U.S. were very competitive.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Japan, the host country, won the gold medal.
Yeah.
And they are bringing baseball back to the games in 2028.
Yes, that I did know.
And they're also bringing it back to the games of 2032.
The baseball classic, World Baseball Classic, is coming up this year. Or
next year.
Next March or whatever.
Yeah, we that tournament's been going since 2006, and the United States has only won it once.
Yeah.
That's my.
It speaks to how talented everybody else is, right?
The international game is catching up to this one.
Yeah.
And I think next year we are supposed to be playing the Cubs in London.
Okay.
So
you're going to Dyer? No, not you. The Cubs are going to Dyersville, Iowa this year to play.
Oh, they are?
Yes, and Field of Dreams. They're doing it again.
Oh, I think they're going to play Cincinnati, aren't they?
They're playing Cincinnati. Yeah, they're playing.
Should be playing us.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd love for the Red Sox to get there. In the COVID shortened year, we were supposed to go to Williamsport, right near
Mhm.
where Little League World Series is, and they were supposed to play the Orioles there. But of course, everything going on with COVID, unfortunately, they couldn't go.
Are they still doing that game, the Williamsport game, or no?
They did it. I think they did it last year. I think the Angels and the Indians did, I think they were the Indians then. I think they were there, the Angels and the Indians last year. And then
What the Mets did it one year.
The Mets were in it. Yep. The Mets were in it 1 year. I always think those games are cool. Unfortunately, when the Red Sox went to London in the 2-game series, they got blown out in both games.
By the Yankees.
It ended up
2 games
working
already? I thought you only played the one.
We played 2 games there. Yeah,
Oh.
we played 2 games there, and the Red Sox lost 2 home games at Fenway.
What was the field like?
It was a bandbox, very small.
They didn't play it in Wembley Stadium, or
to center field, I think it was less than 400.
Oh
feet.
my God!
It was just
that's like an 1890s park. I mean, you got to go.
It was small.
1884. The Chicago White Stockings had a hitter named Ned Williamson, and he hit 27 home runs. They played at the Lake Avenue grounds, I think it was called.
Oh, okay.
It was a bandbox, like you said.
Yeah.
So that record is kind of tainted because of the field dimensions. I mean, I have a feeling that the 19th century fields, I think they were probably all really small by today's standards.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
they were probably the size of what a ball minor league park would be today.
Reflecting on that London series the Red Sox played the Yankees in, the gaps were ginormous. So you could, you hit a ball far away, you get a triple.
Oh, wow.
But no,
the gaps were where triples went to die or something?
They were, I don't know, it was just like a weird series. I remember there was like a night game there, and then the second one was like because the time difference obviously is different. So
where I am, I think it's 6 or 7 hours to the UK.
Yeah, it's it was a big difference, and of course, the 2019 season for the Red Sox, even though they finished above 500, they didn't get to the playoffs. And then obviously in 2020,
now, hadn't you guys won the World Series in 2018?
We won the World Series in 2018. That was a great team, arguably in my lifetime the greatest Red Sox team in terms of stats. The 2000.
Now, didn't you guys get accused of cheating?
Yes, we did. Yep, that was the tape room, the film room incident, where guys were going down there, and I don't know the exact. It was around the time when the Astros had their thing going.
That's right. I know that in 2017 the Astros were accused of that.
And then, not trying to insult the Yankees, but they are also somewhat involved in that kind of stuff too. And there was a couple of other major league teams that are involved in it too, but none of that ended up. I think just the Red Sox got somewhat punished.
Right.
It wasn't anything of great stature as what the Astros did in 2017, but there was definitely some stuff going on. And as a Red Sox fan, I don't deny that at all.
Now, you know about, we know about owners like Steinbrenner and Finley, and as we just found out, and as you just found out today, Chris Vonderai, the original owner, not the original owner, but the gentleman that succeeded William A. Hulbert as the owner of the Chicago White Stockings was Albert Goodwill Spaulding, who himself had been an excellent pitcher. What the heck? What is that?
I'm back. Don't worry.
What was that?
I just turned my camera off real quick. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, that's okay.
I had to grab my laptop charger.
Oh, I've got my laptop charging too, so I'm good.
Okay.
Albert Goodwill Spaulding became the owner of the Chicago White Stockings after having been their ace pitcher. And he and his brother borrowed $800 from their mother, and they formed a sporting goods company. And that sporting goods company still exists. Spalding?
Spalding, the basketball company.
That's right.
Yeah.
They also they
They
used
baseball too.
they
Spalding.
used to.
They used to.
Rawlings now makes the baseballs.
Rawlings.
Spalding started out making the baseballs. But anyway, he would conduct business from his box at Chicago's stadium using a new contraption invented by Alexander Graham Bell. I think we know what that contraption is. The telephone?
The telephone.
Yeah, it was a new contraption then. But he
You're
used...
talking about stealing signs?
No, I'm talking about doing business with his sporting goods empire.
I thought you were talking about stealing signs. Oh, okay.
No. Spalding had his ball team and his sporting goods empire going at the same time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he was trying to keep an eye on his outside interests.
Yeah.
He used the telephone.
Oh.
But anyway, I was going to get back to, there was one point I wanted to touch on. The in the minor leagues, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the AAA stadiums, the stadiums that the top affiliates of the major league clubs play in, their dimensions are the same as the big league parks.
Some of them, not all of them, because some of them have been around for a long time.
Do what now?
Some of them have been around for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
but not many of them are left. I can't think of any. I know the one now.
So the Worcester Park, does the Worcester Park have the same dimensions as Fenway?
No. They don't. What do you like? You mean like they have the same dimensions as Fenway? No.
No, I mean like in terms of distances from home plate.
Yes, major league standard. Yep.
Yeah, because the Memphis ballpark.
Yeah.
I've been to the Memphis ballpark before. It has the same dimensions as Busch.
Exact dimensions?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, no, I don't. We instead of left field, right field is where the big wall is in Worcester.
Oh, so Worcester's Green Monster is on right field?
Yeah, it's like a big blue. I've not been to Worcester yet. I've only been to Fenway. When they played in Pawtucket, there was just a regular normal ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
In Lowell, the AA affiliate, not Lowell, Portland, the Sea Dogs, they have a Green Monster there.
They do?
And that's a very old ballpark in downtown Portland.
Now, is that Green Monster in the same place?
Yes. I believe I would. I don't have obviously I don't have a tape measure, so I wouldn't know.
I'm still with you. Hold on. Just want to go to
I would assume so because they have it for that reason. Align with that.
I'm trying to check on the Cardinal game. Hold on.
The new ballpark spring training facility in Fort Myers, Florida, has the same dimensions as well.
Okay.
They have a green.
Now the Cardinals. It's nothing.
Oh, okay.
Still nothing. It's in like the fifth inning.
Who are they playing?
Phillies.
Okay, you guys
are playing the old Worcester club.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They're playing it Busch. Yeah, they're playing the Cardinals. The Cardinals are playing the Worcester Ruby Legs. Yeah, believe it or not, I mean in the 19th century, the National League had teams in places like Worcester and Troy, New York, of all places.
Yeah.
And the Troy Haymakers, I believe they were called. They moved to New York City in 1883.
Troy, Alabama, Troy, or
no, Troy, New York, Troy.
New York, okay. All right.
Yeah, Troy, New York, outside of Albany.
Okay, yep, I know where that is. Okay.
Yeah, that's as a matter of fact, Troy, New York is the hometown of Johnny Evers, as in Tinker to Evers to Chance.
Yeah.
And he played in Boston for a time.
He did. Yeah.
Not as a Red Sox.
No, as a Brave.
As a Brave.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Troy Haymakers, I think they were called, or the Troy Trojans. I think they were known as both at alternating times.
Okay.
They moved to New York City before the 1883 season and became the Gothams.
Who were at the Giants in New York?
They would become well. All right, there's an interesting story as to why they became the Giants. I think they beat Philadelphia, as a matter of fact, in the game, and Jim Moultrie, the owner, came down to the locker room, and there were sports writers gathering in, and he turned to the sports writers and said, "Come on, guys, come see my big fellas, come see my Giants." And the name stuck.
Mm-hmm. I like
but
that.
Anyway, yeah, those same Giants existed in New York for 75 years.
Long time.
Yeah, and moved after the 1957 season, of course, to become the San Francisco Giants. But
it would have been interesting, as I was born in the late 90s. I think it would always been cool to kind of see 3 teams that have always stayed in New York still be there, but then it doesn't work that way. There's 2 there now.
Well, yeah,
but
there were 3, obviously.
There was 3 at one time. I did have a question for you. And just because we have a couple more minutes left, but I love your stories and I want to keep going. So we're going to actually go a little bit longer today.
Good.
Because I know you have a lot of thoughts, and we will not be here next week. Parker,
no, we won't. I'll be in Colorado.
I will be in Cape Cod next weekend.
Oh, nice. Are you going to go see some Cape Cod League games?
Possibly. There's some family in town that I'm going to go see.
Okay. Now you said the team. Does the team from Summer Catch still exist?
Oh, Chatham, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chatham's still there. Yeah, everyone's.
They're not the Chatham A's anymore.
They are the Chatham A's. Yeah.
Oh, they're still called the Chatham A's?
Like they're anglers, but yeah, you call them the A's. Yeah, sure.
Just like in the film.
Yeah. So they call them the Chatham Anglers, but their fans still call them the Chatham A's because it's anglers.
Right.
They still have the A. I believe they still have the A on their hat. So.
I mean, is the uniform still the same color?
Yes. Yep. They got the pinstripes, the whole bit.
I wonder if anybody from the movie has ever gone to a Cape Cod League game
That's a good question. Getting back to my question.
Go ahead.
Like 10 years ago, I'd say around
2012. Okay.
It was never like confirmed, but there was a rumor going around that they were going to switch up the divisions and make it more regionalized. So like the Mets would be going to the American League.
I'd heard that rumor, but I don't think
Phillies would be going, and then, the rate, like they would switch it out to where the East teams, they would all switch. So like the Rays would then go to the NL East because the Marlins are there. It was just like this whole thing. Of course, it never materialized because,
no, I remember hearing those rumors myself.
Do you think it's ever going to get to that point? I don't believe so. I thought it was because of COVID,
I think it's going to.
But
I'm still wondering what is going to happen as far as Montreal goes.
If they ever have a franchise.
Yeah. I think they should. I often wonder what would have happened to the 1994 Expos had there been no strike.
They had quite the season that year.
Do what?
They had quite the season that year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, would that success have continued had there been no strike?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of think it would have. And Pedro was on that team.
Well, Pedro said it would have. They would have. I think Cliff Floyd was on that team as well.
Yes, he was.
They would have won a championship. Yeah.
What did Pedro have to say about it?
Same thing when the Browns in I think it was '95. They said if they were never told they were going to move, they would have won a championship too. So I don't know. When things start going downhill, it's kind of hard to say.
It's like all right. The Oakland A's, they used to be in Kansas City. And as a matter of fact, Reggie and Catfish and Sal Bando and Campy Campaneris, Joe Rudy, Dick Green, they all actually appeared in Major League games as Kansas City A's.
Mm-hmm.
Vida Blue, and people think Vida Blue appeared in Kansas City A's games too. No, he was in the Kansas City A's system at the time.
But there was not 2 Kansas City teams at one time.
No, but Raleigh Fingers was also in the Kansas City system. He was in their minor league system.
So the Royals then were founded after they left to go to Oakland. Okay.
Actually, there was a 1-year gap between
it was
A's leaving. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at, I mean, would you know how Finley's teams won 3 World Series in a row in Oakland?
Yes.
Would they have done the same thing if the team had decided to remain in Kansas City?
If it was the same team, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't really think it matters where you play. I mean, it's a team.
Right. I mean,
Right.
I kind of think that too. I mean, it would have been interesting in 73, especially because when the Mets had that improbable run, the Cardinals were the ones that finished in second place. If the Cardinals had been the East champions in 73 instead of the Mets, it would have been interesting to see whether or not the Cardinals would have faced the Kansas City A's in the World Series. There would have been an I-70 series 12 years earlier.
Mm.
Now, I was at a Cardinal Royal game one time, and I was talking to another fan about this, and the guy said, and the guy was old enough to remember when Finley had the team.
Is that a rivalry? I'm sorry,
What?
I just want to ask. Like, is there hatred between the two teams?
I mean, between the A's and the Royals?
The Cardinals and the Royals.
I think it's more a friendly rivalry.
Is it, so it's like the Nationals and the Orioles.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to
But
make sure.
there's still, and I'm one of them. There are still a lot of people that believe that Orta was out. Remember when, I don't know if you weren't alive yet, but Don Denkinger made that erroneous call.
They've played each other in the World Series before.
Yeah, 85.
85.
That's the game. It was game 6, 85. Jorge Orta was at bat. Todd Worrell was the pitcher. And photographs clearly show that Worrell beat Orta to the bag with ball in glove. And Denkinger called him safe.
Well, there was no replay or anything.
No, there wasn't any replay then. The call stood no matter what. But a lot of people say that call turned the series against the Cardinals.
Do you believe it did?
Do I believe it did? No, there were other circumstances that caused the Cardinals. I mean, I don't think it was the factor. I think it might have been a factor. I don't think it was the factor. It wasn't the determining factor. There were others.
I think switching sports, it's kind of a weird thing. I think it was 2012 college football. I don't know if you pay attention much to college
football. Yeah.
I
remember 1991 Missouri versus Colorado, 5th and goal.
I think it was Notre Dame went undefeated in 2012 and then got blown out against Alabama in the national championship game.
Right.
I think it was 2012. Or it might have been, I think it had to be 2012.
All right, anyway, go on.
They played against BYU, and there was a couple of seconds left. And BYU was lining up to kick the winning field goal. They made it, but a guy false started. The reason why he false started was because the defensive lineman enticed him to do it, which was, at the time when they started, it was a new rule where if the defender initiates the guy moving plays on, it doesn't get called. Well, the referees didn't see it that way. They call it back.
I remember that.
I think it was a 5 or 10 yard penalty. The guy misses it. They go to overtime. Yeah. Notre Dame wins.
Right.
That guy makes a field goal, and Notre Dame doesn't even get to the national championship because they lose.
There was a play. As a matter of fact, it involved your team, the Patriots.
Okay.
They were the Boston Patriots then.
The Boston Patriots. You talking about against the Raiders?
No, it was against not the tuck rule. This was way, way, way back. This was in
1973. That's what I'm talking. The Raiders.
This was way back.
Oh, okay.
This was 1961.
Oh, wow. Against
the Dallas Texans, who are now the Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And the Texans quarterback fades back to throw a pass. And it's apparently an incomplete pass, but it was batted away by a fan that had run out onto the field.
Oh, okay.
And the referee called it an incomplete pass anyway.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but that was one of the most bizarre sports plays I've ever seen. I mean, it's on YouTube.
I will have to watch that.
Yeah, but it's talked about in a HBO sports documentary about the American Football League.
Okay.
Anyway, that's
AFL. The AFL.
Yes,
Yes.
which still exists.
Does.
Yes. Well, exists as the American Football Conference.
Oh, that's AFC.
Right, but the AFC was once the AFL.
Yes, it was. Yes.
And the team, all the team, most of the teams still exist. As a matter of fact, I think all the teams still exist.
Yep, because Houston became Tennessee.
Yep.
The
Boston became New England.
The New York Titans are the Jets.
That's right. Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills are obviously still the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm. The Raiders are Raiders, Vegas.
The Chiefs. And
the Raiders. They were the Dallas Texans.
And the Chargers.
Yep. They are once again the Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the first ever starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers ran for president of the United States.
Did not know that.
Jack Kemp.
Okay.
Yeah, he was Buffalo's quarterback for a long time.
Why?
And then he became a Republican congressman from the Buffalo area.
Okay.
But yeah, he is originally a Californian, and he became Secretary of HUD under Bush 41.
Okay.
And then ran with Bob Dole for vice president.
Getting back to baseball.
Okay. I had another point I wanted to make about the Western League that band Johnson formed in 1894. One of those teams still operates today in its original city.
Now, you mentioned this at the top of the hour. What could you give me a hint on who they are? Because I want to guess.
Yeah, usually the first American League game of the year is played there.
Is it in my part of the country where I live?
No, it's in the Midwest.
It's in the Midwest. Is it St. Louis?
No.
It's an American League team, you said?
Yes, it's an American League team today.
It's an American League team today. Is it Cleveland?
Nope.
That's Mid-Atlantic. Never mind. Chicago, the White Sox. Detroit. Wow. Okay.
Yep, the Detroit, and they operate under their current. They operated then under their current name and in their current city.
Tigers.
Yeah, so the Detroit Tigers have been in their same location since 1894.
And they've always been called the Tigers.
Yep. They have.
They haven't really gone much in terms of like uniform changes or logo changes or anything like that.
No, I like the Tigers
They're
uniforms.
classic.
Actually.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still pretty much the same as they were when Ty Cobb played. Yeah, and they never retired Ty Cobb's number because he didn't have one.
No.
I mean, the Red Sox never retired Babe Ruth's number. They never retired Cy Young's number. Now, did they do anything like? Did they have retired numbers on their outfield wall?
The Red Sox, yes. Yep.
They didn't do anything saying like Young. They didn't put his name up there.
No. All we have is for non-Red Sox is Jackie Robinson. Besides that, everybody else.
Cy Young played for Boston.
He did. Yes, he did. But they don't because he didn't have he just had Cy Young on the back of his.
He didn't have anything on the back of his jersey.
Didn't he have Young on the back of his jersey?
Nothing.
Man. Oh, not even a last name. Okay.
Nope. Because the Giants did that for McGraw and Mathewson and Bill Terry. Well, no, Bill Terry actually wore a number. Never mind, but his number was 3. But they honored McGraw and Mathewson with the letters NY.
Okay.
Because McGraw and Mathewson didn't wear numbers.
I do have the numbers here if you want me to read it off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Numbers. Joe Cronin, number 4. Okay. Ted Williams, number 9.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Doerr, number 1.
Right.
Carl Yastrzemski, number 8. Carlton Fisk, Johnny Bessie, Jim Rice,
14.
Wade Boggs, which kind of bothers me because he played for the Yankees, but that's okay.
What was his number? 12?
Wade Boggs was 26.
20. Okay, he was 12 with the Yankees, I think.
Pedro Martinez,
45.
Ortiz, and then Jackie Robinson. I'm pretty sure that I thought for some reason Roger Clemens' number was retired with the Red Sox as well. But
now
they might have taken that down.
I think Roger Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame, and I'll tell you why. I mean, he was widely speculated to have used banned substances, but he had his day in court twice, not just once, but twice, and nothing was ever proven.
It's I think it's a very it actually turns out that Roger Clemens' number is not retired. I thought it was. I was going to say the same thing about Wade Boggs. He ended up playing for the Yankees as well, but
and the Rays.
Yep, and the Rays when they first became a franchise. Yeah,
because he's from there.
But
I thought maybe Boggs' number wasn't retired because of the Margot Adams thing.
No, wait, no. But no, Roger Clemens. A part of me feels that, and the same thing with Barry Bonds, it takes a lot more than just injecting yourself with something to be a great baseball player. And what Roger Clemens was able to do in his career and the longevity that he had, and it didn't ever seem like he ever got injured, but when he did, it was minimal. And then Barry Bonds, even before he went to San Francisco and got,
he was a great player with the Pirates.
Great player. So both of them ruined their careers with steroids. Even though it helped them numbers wise, it didn't help them end up getting into Cooperstown. But I think it takes a little bit more than just injecting yourself with something to be a great baseball player.
Agreed.
That being said, if Curt Schilling can't get into the Hall of Fame because he opens his mouth on social media, neither can those guys, and neither can Pete Rose.
Now, I remember there was a funny story. Roger was attempting one of his many comebacks with the Yankees.
Okay.
And in so doing, he pitched to get back into baseball shape. He pitched for the AAA farm team of the Yankees at the time, which I think was Columbus.
The Columbus Clippers, I think, now are with the Guardians.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
But at the time, I think they were the Yankees farm team.
Okay.
Anyway, they were playing.
Wilkes-Barre.
That's now,
Yankees,
the Scranton Wilkes-Barre. That's right. Which I don't understand, because Scranton Wilkes-Barre is closer to Philadelphia than it is to New York.
I know.
Anyway, so Roger's team was playing the Toledo Mud Hens.
That's the Tigers.
Right. Anyway, one of the part owners of the Toledo Mud Hens was Jamie Farr, the actor.
I know Jamie Farr.
Corporal Klinger from MASH.
Yes.
So they billed the game as Clemens versus Klinger. And I think Roger won that day. But it was billed as Clemens versus Klinger.
Wow. Roger Clemens had obviously had a lot of his success in his career in Boston. And then I think went to Toronto, and then went to New York, and then
Houston.
Yeah, well, isn't he from Texas? He's
yes.
a Texas guy, yeah. But there's a lot of
his son's in the majors now.
Yes, yeah, his son
Cody, his
catcher. His son's a middle infielder or a catcher?
I think he's a middle infielder, but his godson is in the majors.
Okay.
Connor Capel.
Okay.
He's playing for us.
Oh, okay.
And as a matter of fact, he just hit his first major league homer the other day.
Getting to regular baseball, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Red Sox and Yankees.
All right.
Because they are playing this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Sox have just been simply outmatched. The pitching situation for the Red Sox is concerning. A lot of our starters are out. We do have Chris Sale coming back. I do not know what type of Chris Sale we're going to be getting. I don't know if we're going to be getting the guy that first got here, or a version
guy that needs a zipper on his face.
2019 Chris Sale that wasn't very efficient. I will say this about Chris Sale. Last year, when he came back, he didn't have the velocity, but he had the command. For Chris Sale,
didn't he throw a hissy fit recently?
Say what?
Didn't he throw a little hissy fit recently?
He threw it. Yeah, he threw it.
That's why I say, are you going to get the Chris Sale that needs a zipper on his face?
Yeah, he when Chris Sale has his velocity everything takes care of itself for him.
Hmm.
When he has that slider going, he's one of the nastiest pitchers in baseball. I just feel like if he can make any difference in this disarray of everyone being out right now for the Red Sox, it just came at a very bad time. I
Right.
don't know with our full pitching
Same
staff.
with us. I mean, we had
Yeah.
the same problem.
Jack Flaherty's out for you guys right now,
Yeah.
right?
So is Steven Matz. I mean, what Steven Matz are we going to get?
Who you guys are
The guy
paying
that-
a lot of money to.
The guy that won 14 games for Toronto last year. I mean, he wasn't bad.
No.
But the guy that pitched for us has been kind of hit or miss. It's been kind of feast or famine with him.
But the Red Sox had a great month of June,
Mm-hmm.
and so far in July, everything's kind of gone to crap. So if the
Yeah.
Red Sox can just weather this storm until the All-Star break and then kind of come back, I just believe if the Red Sox can just get into the playoffs and things can go right, they have a chance to win.
Right.
really believe that.
Well, the Yankees
You
are
have
so
to have
far
it,
ahead
but
of everybody.
with the way the Red Sox are playing,
Mhm.
everything has to go right for them. And
Right.
just speaking on the Yankees real quick, the Yankees are the best team in baseball. And
Yes.
that's coming from a Red Sox fan.
It's coming from a Cardinals fan too.
They've been playing, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
They're going to win 115 games. But I will say this, and for Yankees fans that are listening and are out there, you guys know as well as I do, it's not going to mean anything unless if you win a championship.
That's
It
yeah.
doesn't. For them, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything.
I mean, look at us. Look at us in 2011. We won 90 games. I mean, we won less games than the Brewers did. We won less games than a lot of teams did, but we won a championship.
Yeah.
We won the series. In 2006, we won 83 games.
Won the same. Won the whole thing.
We won the World Series.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, you're right. The 73 Mets, 82 and 79. They won the pennant. They went to the World Series. They almost won the World Series. But it's about getting hot at the right time.
Yes.
I mean, if you get hot, I mean, the Cardinals have historically gotten hot at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
By the time October rolls around, the Cards become a different beast. I mean, you guys too, like 2004. There was no way in hell after what you guys did to the Yankees, and this is coming from a Cardinals fan, there was no way in hell we were going to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys were on such an unbelievable roll. I mean, I have to admit it. You guys were on such an unbelievable roll. I mean, you guys were destined to win that series.
Going into the 2007 World Series against the Rockies, I thought the same way. And they came into Boston and laid an egg.
Oh, yeah, when the Rockies were riding that streak?
They won let's see, back then it was 5 and then 4. So they won 9 straight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the month of September, they only lost like 4 games or something like that.
Yep.
They went on a tear.
Yeah,
and then game 1 of the World Series, like we're in it for the long haul because we just came back from being down 3-1 against the Cleveland Indians at the time with CeCe Sabathia.
Oh, yeah.
Grady Sizemore, everybody. And we ended up winning that one in 7. And we blew them out in game 7. The Indians just, I don't know what happened. After we won those 2 games, it was over for them in game 7. But going into that series, I thought we were in for a 6 or 7 game series, and we just beat them up.
Yeah, you did.
Because the Rockies were such a young team then.
Matt Holliday was on.
Yeah, Matt Holliday
scored the winning run in game 163
against the Padres.
Yep.
Yeah. That's when the Padres had like those weird cream uniforms.
Yep.
Back then. Luckily they don't wear them anymore,
but yeah, I remember that series.
Yeah. That was a very quick and easy series, and then we obviously in 2013 everything happened.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. If David Ortiz doesn't hit that home run against the Tigers, we don't even get to the World Series. That single play got us to the World Series.
But yeah, I don't remember that 2013 World Series at all. I don't think that ever happened.
No.
Of course I remember it.
I think it was game 4. I think it was game 4.
Oh, that interference call?
The interference call.
I think that was
which
game
was,
3.
which was interference. Game 3, it was interference.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, we won that game. We went up 2-1.
And then never did win a game after that.
Yeah, we went completely south after that.
Yeah, that team in 2013 was a pretty good team. I remember when you guys won it all, and in 06.
Yep.
You beat the Mets to get there.
Waino catches Beltran looking.
Yep.
And then in 2000, after 2011, Beltran signs with us, and he and Waino become teammates.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how that works out.
That's the thing. All right, Albert Pujols, when he was with us the first time around, I mean, he went to the World Series twice. He went to 9 All-Star games. He batted .328 over the course of those 10 years he was with us. I think when he got to the Angels, in 1 year, he went from being the best in baseball to not even being the best on his own team.
Mm-hmm.
He got to the Angels. I think they went to the playoffs once.
It was the first year they got there. There was a freight train. They won like 90-something games, and I think they got swept by the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
It was just one of the weirdest. It was similar to what I hope happens to the Yankees this year. They have a great year, and then in the first round they go out and get jumped.
Oh, so, that would be so.
But it's not going to happen. The Yankees.
So does Aaron Judge sign with the Yankees next year?
That's
isn't he a free agent? Like,
that's an interesting question.
But isn't he a free agent like right now?
Yes.
Or not right now, but after this season.
Come November 1st, provided that baseball's still not playing, he'll be a free agent.
Wow. So he could go anywhere.
I believe that he will go to the Yankees. He'll be back there.
Unfortunately for you guys, yeah.
They can't afford to lose him.
No, because he puts asses in the seats.
Because after him, who's the guy you're looking at? Giancarlo Stanton?
When healthy.
Get off the field, can't stay on the field consistently.
Yeah.
Well, how ironic they go out and win 60 of the first 90-something games of the year, and they're all healthy. So I guess this is what happens when everybody's healthy.
Yeah, we are like right now. The Cardinals are not healthy. I mean, you guys aren't healthy either.
Three back of Milwaukee,
something like that. Yeah, 3.5, something like that.
We're like 20 games back from the Yankees.
It's not impossible, but
no.
I think we're going to be a much scarier team when we're healthy. When Bader comes back, when O'Neill comes back, when Matz comes back, if Jack comes back.
I think the Red Sox can make the playoffs this year.
I know we can.
Needs to start going right because now, of course, you have the expanded playoffs where you got another team that can go in. I hope they stick with this format going forward. I don't like it the past couple of years where they flip-flop the format. Let's stay with the format and let's keep it.
Oh, you mean the 3 wild cards?
Yes, I'm all for it.
So let me see if I have this right. I mean, they're going to be seeded, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, are they going to be seeded on records no matter what? Or are they going to be seeded as division winners and
division winners are seeded? So
division winners are seeded 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And then the wild cards are also seeded 1, 2, 3.
Yes, in the wild card games, all 3 games will be played at the higher seeds, respective ball.
Right. But
so home field advantage in those wild card rounds are going to mean more than it does in the divisional or championship series.
I thought it was going to be where the first 4 seeds receive buys, and then the 2 seeds. No, wait a minute, that can't be right.
The first 2 seeds receive a bye.
Okay, and then the division winner with the worst record will play the wild card winner with the worst record.
Yes.
And then the 2 and then
we'll
wild card 1 and wild card 2 will play each other.
3 versus 6, 4 versus 5.
Right.
Yeah. But then they don't reseed. They just goes to who.
Oh, they don't reseed them. So it's 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5.
Yep, and I think the
4
winner
versus 5 being the wild card winners.
4 versus 5, the winner of that will go play the 1 seed, which will likely be the Yankees.
So, wow.
The 3 versus 6 will likely play Houston.
So the Yankees and Houston are the 2 seeds right now.
I believe so. Yes.
And
Minnesota's right there too with them too. Minnesota's a good club this year too.
Who's the central leader right now?
Well, Minnesota.
Okay, so they're the 3 seed.
And the Guardians, surprisingly, are having a very good year.
Are they in? If the season were to end today, would the Guardians be in the playoffs?
They're not in the playoffs, no.
Hmm.
They are not. I can take a look at real quick. No, they would not be. The Rays, the Red Sox, and Toronto.
All from the East.
4 out of the 5 teams would be making it.
Got even. I looked at the standings yesterday. The Orioles are like they're 40 and 44, but they're 4 back of the wild card.
Yeah, that's it. They're right there.
Yeah, they are.
I think the wild card team this year, there's a chance that the wild card winner could only have 86, 87 wins.
So all of the wild cards in the American League are from the East.
Yes.
Right now, as of right now.
Yeah, the nearest is Seattle, who's back by 2 games in the National League. The wild cards are the Braves, the Padres, and the Phillies. The Cardinals are 1 game
Shut
back.
up! I don't want to hear it.
That's fine. It's within striking distance.
I know. I'm not worried about it. I'm not. I mean,
I think when it's all said and done, the Cardinals will be right there. I think the Phillies.
I agree.
I think the Phillies are gonna fall off.
I do too, but
they're on the hype of
Thank God after this Sunday or after this Monday, us and the Phillies are done. Yeah, that was a real heartbreaker last night.
Was it?
And it's 0-0 last time I checked. But anyway, yeah, I think the Cardinals are going to be right there in the thick of things, and they will be in the playoffs when all is said and done. But there are a lot of our fans, there are a lot of our so-called fans on some of these social media groups that are panicking. They're saying Mo must go and DeWitt's need to sell and Ollie's a puppet and yada yada yada.
Paul Goldschmidt is having quite the year for the Cardinals.
Oh yeah,
he's starting in the All-Star game.
Yes, he is, and he deservedly so.
I wanted to talk about the All-Star game.
Yeah, I love the All-Star game.
By the time we talk next, I think it might be after the All-Star break.
Yes, it will. We can recap the All-Star game next.
The All-Star game.
And we can talk about the upcoming trade deadline.
Out of all the professional sports, the All-Star game playing on the field is the most authentic.
I agree.
You can't play baseball half. You'll get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You could lose your career.
Yep. You can't play.
You can't pitch half.
Nope.
You can't play half. Can't bat half. I think
baseball is the only game. Actually, I don't know if they do it anymore. I used to like it when the All-Stars in baseball wore their own they wore their regular uniforms.
So
all the other sports have uniforms especially designed for the game, and baseball.
Last year I didn't watch the All-Star game, but it was in Colorado.
Yep.
And they made them wear a uniform. All of them wore the same uniform, just on the patch it said, what team you're representing and your number back.
I didn't like that.
In years past, you'd be able to wear your own uniform. But there would be patches, you have to wear a new hat, everything was different.
Yeah, like the hat I'm wearing now. This was a hat. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is the 911 patch. Okay. This was the hat worn on September 11th. And I think this is the September 11th hat every year.
Okay.
But yeah, it has the 911 patch on it.
The All-Star game, I think this year, I don't know if they're going to do the same thing they did last year, making them wear a uniform, but in years past, you've been able to wear your regular uniform, but there's
I like that better.
Yes, agreed.
Because, like you said, it looks more authentic.
I'll be honest with you. I think the reason why they made them wear the same uniform is the San Diego Padres don't have a gray uniform.
Oh no, they don't. That's right.
They don't, and I think they're the only team in Major League Baseball that doesn't have them.
No, that's right. They don't have a gray uniform.
To my understanding, everybody else does. So that makes me think that's why Major League Baseball did that.
Okay.
So the reason
I think it was also money.
Well, money, yeah.
Merchandising.
Yeah.
But it's funny. You buy one of those jerseys, they cost you buy an authentic game-worn jersey.
$300 probably.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing this thing that my wife got me for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's Club, $38. But at least it's representative of my team.
Yeah.
I mean, I got Cardinals right here got the Cardinals birds on the bat right here on the sleeve.
I owned a Mookie Betts jersey for like a year, and then they got rid of
that's right, when he was with the Red
him. He was
Sox.
with the Red Sox. Now he's with the Dodgers.
Yeah, we got them starting next week. Ugh.
Oh, that's a bit of a rivalry, Cardinals and Dodgers.
That actually goes back to Brooklyn when the Dodgers were in Brooklyn. Because I told you that in 34, when both Dean brothers were facing Brooklyn in a doubleheader.
Yes, we talked about that.
Yeah, Dizzy goes out and pitches the shutout, and Paul pitches the no-hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And Dizzy says, shit, if I'd known Paul was going to throw a no-hitter, I'd have pitched me one too. But there was also, it was funny, that World Series that year, Dean got hit in the head with a thrown ball.
Okay.
As he was running the bases. And he's knocked cold. And then he's taken to the hospital, and the x-rays of his head come back negative. There's no concussion or anything like that. But then the funniest thing was the headline in the paper the next day. It says, X-rays of Dean's head show nothing.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that I think part of that rivalry stems from the fact that Branch Rickey went from the Cardinals to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
As the GM.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when he's in Brooklyn, he signs Jackie Robinson, and he's more well known for that, which that's a great accomplishment. But he was famous. He was famous in baseball circles way before that, because he came up with a lot of the innovations that we use today in baseball. He came up with sliding pits. He came with strategy meetings that he called skull sessions. Of course, he came up with the idea of the farm system, and developing players from within. And he also came up with, I believe, he also came up with pitching machines. And I know for a fact that he came up with batting helmets.
That's cool.
Yeah, he came up with a lot of.
He was a big innovator.
Yeah, I mean, again, signing Jackie Robinson was a great accomplishment, but it wasn't his first great accomplishment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think some people, a lot of fans were bitter that Branch left. So yeah, that's where the Cardinals Dodgers rivalry comes from. And then, of course, Gibson and Koufax were a rivalry in the 60s. As a matter of fact, there's a 6-year period from 1963 to 1968. The Dodgers and the Cardinals were the only champions of the National League, and they won three pennants each.
Pretty good.
And then in 1964, the Cardinals were the world champions. In 1963, the Dodgers were the world champions, 4-0 over the Yankees. Then the next year, the Cardinals were the World Series winners. Then the next year after that, the Dodgers 4-3 over the Twins. And then the 2 years hence, 67, Cardinals. So, yeah, the Dodgers, in that 6-year span, the Dodgers and the Cardinals each won 3 pennants and 2 World Series.
That's cool. I like that.
But yeah, that was.
Parker, do you have anything else to add before we adjourn for almost like 2 weeks?
Well, no, I just want to. I will say that maybe the next show we do, we can talk about the just completed All-Star game, and then we can talk about the upcoming trade deadline.
That should be exciting. There's a lot of interesting trades. Before we go, we're
looking at Mad Bum.
Yeah, I will start with the Red Sox.
Please.
I believe, and we'll probably go another 10 minutes at this rate talking about trades. I think the Red Sox currently, the way they are right now, which I don't think is going to change in a week or 2 weeks, with injuries and everything else. The Red Sox need some starting pitching. They need some reliable starting pitching, not just throwing guys out there. Alex Cora's in a bad spot right now because half of his rotation. Well, basically his whole rotation's gone besides Nick Pivetta.
I think we need starting pitching too, but I will say this, that I think once we get some of our guys healthy again, like O'Neill and Bader and Matz, I think we're going to be in a good position.
Similar to last year when Chris Sale came back, we needed him to be Chris Sale, and he was. He's going to need to be that guy again this year when he comes back. I think he's pitching on Tuesday night in Tampa. And he's from Florida. He's a Florida resident.
Okay.
Playing the Rays.
Wait, is he pitching in the major leagues in Tampa?
Yes, he'll be
pitching.
Okay.
He's not pitching for the Tampa Yankees.
No, he'll be pitching with the Red Sox.
I'm sorry, he's not pitching against the Tampa Yankees.
No.
Who are managed by a woman, by the way.
Yes, I did know that.
And I've heard she's doing a pretty good job with them.
She is, yeah.
That's good. I mean,
that's I think a low. I think it's A ball. I think.
Yeah, it is.
A team in Florida.
Because I think they're also talking about making women's baseball an Olympic sport.
Oh, that'd be cool.
In 2028.
I like that.
There is a women's baseball World Cup.
That I did know.
Yeah, but there is talk about making women's baseball an Olympic sport.
There's getting back to trade deadline and trades and such with the Red Sox. They also need to get some bullpen arms.
Now we've got those.
The bullpen as of late for the Red Sox has not been too bad. The problem we run into is when our offense isn't hitting. And for instance, I think it was Saturday, or it might have been the Friday game. The Red Sox got off to an early lead, and then the Cubs started to come back.
Mm-hmm.
7th or 8th inning, we already blew the top arms, and some guy came in and it was just wild. So the Red, you guys have a lot of the same problems we do. Yeah, we have the pitching. We have the pitching. It's just it's not reliable.
Yep, same here.
We have it. We have the arms.
So do we.
It's just in like
our bullpen's been pretty good lately too. So
a guy like Austin Davis, guy that we got from the Pirates, he's a flyer. He's overall pitched pretty good with the Red Sox. He hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been good either. But he hasn't been bad. If the Red Sox can late in games, like for instance, the problem with the Red Sox specifically in their division outside of Baltimore, everybody else after the 6th inning has all shut down guys that if you don't have the lead come the 6th inning, you're in trouble.
Right. And
that happened to the Red Sox on Thursday night. They almost came back and beat the Yankees. We probably beat half of the teams in the league down 6-5 because everyone's just going to crumble late.
Yeah, you beat us too. Not
the Yankees and not the Rays and not Toronto. We just can't beat them late in games because they have the better pitching.
Yeah, I thought the games between us were competitive.
Very competitive because we're similar in a lot of ways. We have the power. We have some good pitching, but bullpen's an issue.
Yeah, but so your offense has been feast or famine, kind of like ours.
Yes, very similar. Yeah. In June, they hit the crap out of the ball. So far in July, it hasn't.
Yeah, tell me about it. No,
but JD Martinez is starting to hit, which is nice. I've always liked JD Martinez. He's a great player. He was a match made in heaven in Boston. He had a really good year in 2018. He's in his 30s.
Okay.
His contract is up at the end of this year, and I'm sure he will not make any near the money that he thinks he's going to make. He can't lay off the slider away. He swings at it every time.
Yeah.
And he strikes out on it every single time. Everyone's got the book on him. So it's kind of hard to be able to do that. But I wanted to ask you before we go, because I've talked enough about the Red Sox today. What do you think your Cardinals need to do with the deadline?
Same thing as you, starting pitching. And we're taking we've had people suggest that we take a look at Mad Bum. Madison Bumgarner.
You're going to get the San Francisco Giants Mad Bum.
I hope so.
Not won them the World Series.
Yeah, but he's with Arizona now.
He's with Arizona now, yes.
I'm hoping we don't get the Mad Bum we're seeing this year, but if we do get him, I hope he's the Mad Bum of the past. I mean, he's 32. It's not like he's only got a year or two left.
The way the Red Sox organization is being constructed at the moment, it's hard for us to say we're going to get a big time pitcher.
Same with us.
we're still lingering over, are we going to sign Xander Bogaerts long term? Are we going to sign Rafael Devers long term? What's the situation at first base? We have so many other problems. It's just
No, we've got so many young pieces like Brendan Donovan and Juan Yepes and Nolan Gorman. You know, we can plug anybody in anywhere. And we've got these two guys, Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn, that might very well be ready for the show.
Okay.
So that's the way our organization is constructed that way. We've got a lot of young guys that we're thinking maybe show ready.
Mm-hmm. Well, Parker, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the show today, and I guess we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. I'll look forward to it.
See you guys later.
All right, bye.